Well, it's another Monday, and that means another edition of the Helliepod. Thank you for downloading and listening. This one's going to be a little different. Two guests on the Helliepod today. Eugene Monroe, 8-year NFL veteran, former first-round pick of the Jags, wrapped up his career in Baltimore with the Ravens. And Jonathan Casillas. Jonathan was a 9-year veteran of the NFL, a 2-time Super Bowl champ. He started his career undrafted out of Wisconsin with the New Orleans Saints, won a Super Bowl that year, also went on to win another Super Bowl as a member of the Patriots, and then wrapped up his career with the New York Football Giants. Both of these guys have some interesting stories from the playing days, but we also delve into the world of cannabis. Both of them very outspoken and leading voices for implementing cannabis as pain management in the NFL. Eugene Monroe on the NFL's pain management committee. He was one of the leading advocates for the new marijuana policy that is part of the CBA. I learned a lot here. Don't know a ton about this area, but both of these guys obviously involved in this industry from a business standpoint and the social impact that it has as well. Eugene gets into that. I think you're going to like this listen. Eugene Monroe and Jonathan Casillas on this edition of the Helliepod presented by Viore. Starts now. Hey, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to another Helliepod. My pleasure to be joined by 8-year NFL veteran Eugene Monroe. You probably remember him from his time with the Jaguars and the Ravens. And Jonathan Casillas, a 9-year veteran, 2-time Super Bowl champion, is with us now. Started his career with the Saints, went to the Bucs, and then with the New York Football Giants. So many great stories to get to, fellas. One of the things I like to talk about is those rookie seasons. When you first entered the league, and you guys entered them on very different terms. Eugene, you were a first-round pick, went to Jacksonville in 2009 out of UVA. When you think back, and it must seem like you're turning back the clock a ways here because it's over a decade now since you were a rookie, right?
Long time ago. Getting old.
I mean,
yeah.
You look back to that rookie season, there had to be kind of a welcome to the NFL moment, right? Whether it was a rookie minicamp or a first preseason game.
Man, so the most memorable, I guess, welcome to the NFL moment for me, they were doing like some light rookie hazing. It wasn't crazy, but they were jacking everyone's hairdos up, right? And so I was bald. So, I was cool. I was confident. I thought like, what's the worst they can do? Like make me grow it out and, do something funny. But they took my eyebrows. So, man, it was like, so I'm in Jacksonville, and if you've been down there, it's summer camp, period. It's hot everywhere, but Jacksonville's heat is just different. Mm-hmm. You walk out the house at 8 a.m. and you're sweating before you open your car door.
Oh, yeah.
And so when they took my eyebrows, it also the sweat, I don't have hair, and now I also don't have eyebrows, so my sweat is just raining straight into my eyes, and I'm like in practice, can't see, in a preseason game, can't see. It was terrible, man. I'm like, I'm playing with a handicap, but hey, just like, welcome to the NFL. Like, there's always going to be something you're pushing through.
Well, it's so funny because Maurice Jones-Drew, a teammate of yours, told the same story about getting his eyebrows cut off, and at that point, he had dreads. So he had dreads and no eyebrows. I don't know what's better or worse, to be bald with no eyebrows or to have dreads with no eyebrows.
I mean, if you have dreads, you at least have hair to catch some of the, sweat and salt raining down in your eyes. But, man, when you're bald, it just trickles right in. It was bad.
So Eugene is a first-round pick, and Jonathan is an undrafted free agent, correct, coming out of Wisconsin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you get there to the Saints, and you're scrapping and clawing for a roster spot. What do you remember most about that time period, trying to win a spot there on that team?
Well, luckily, because I was so low on the totem pole, like they didn't really haze me. I think they kind of overlooked the undrafted guys because they got all the drafted guys. You know, Malcolm Jenkins, he got it bad. Eugene, you know Malcolm from Piscataway, he got it bad. You know, and Malcolm's a real prideful guy, so they kept getting after him too. So I kind of missed the whole hazing thing. But Greg Williams was our defensive coordinator back then, and you know I was getting some rotations, and we were running like a blitz in practice one day, and you know it's like just like Jacksonville, maybe not just like Jacksonville, but it's very humid in Louisiana. And this was back in double sessions. It was 2 practices a day, you know. So, you know, people were like dropping like flies, you know, IVs and everything. So one play, our defense was like a zone blitz where the linebacker had to run with number 2 of the field. The number 2 of the field was a wide receiver, and he was rolling. So I'm running. I think Chase Daniels actually threw the ball. He was a backup quarterback.
Sure.
And he threw it right over me. And I reached up, tried to get it, and I missed the ball. And as I did it, I kind of stumbled, but I didn't chase after the receiver. I just turned around like, damn. And I turned around, and Greg Williams is running straight towards me. And I'm like, what is going on, you know? So he's like, get your ass over here. So he's in my face. He's like, if you ever fucking run on my field ever again, I'm going to cut you on the spot. And like, you know what he says? I'm going to cut you on the spot and send your ass back to New Jersey. That's what he said. And after that, like, my heart was beating so hard. I'm an undrafted rookie, bro. Like, you know how it is, Eugene. They going in and out. You know, undrafted guys is coming in and out the building. So I'm like, man, I might lose my job. But after that, like, I literally never walked ever again on the practice field, ever again. Always full, 100%, balls to the wall every time. I think that conversation had a little bit with me making the team that year. You know, kind of got after my ass real quick, and I never, like, slouched after that ever again.
Greg Williams, one of the bigger ball busters I've ever been around in the NFL coaching.
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yeah. Yo, so my rookie year, I was undrafted, and we had other guys that we drafted, Chip Vaughn, Stanley Arnaud, but I think they got hurt, if I'm not mistaken. They both got hurt their rookie years. So myself and Malcolm Jenkins were the only rookies playing. In New Orleans, we won a Super Bowl that year, but we were loaded. You know, we had the Harper and Sharper, we had Vilma, we had Scott Shanley, like Will Smith. We had a lot of, you know, really good defensive players. Malcolm was playing all year long, very sparingly, corner, safety, and I was very limited, playing a lot of special teams, but not really defense until like the last, I think week 15, 16, I started playing. I ended up starting at the end of the year. So every time Malcolm will make a mistake, Greg will find me because I'm always ready to go for punt. So I'm always right behind the defense, you know, like right there. So he'll turn around to me. He'd be like, where's Casillas? He'd be like, I fucking hate rookies. And I'm like, Coach, I haven't even played this year. Like, why are you cursing me out? And that's what it was every game. When Malcolm make a mistake, he'd be like, Casillas, you see that bullshit that Malcolm's doing? You don't ever do that shit. So I got all of Malcolm's discipline. I got all of it that year because I was on the sideline and Malcolm was playing.
Did you realize when you were playing in the Super Bowl as a rookie how abnormal that was? I talked to so many guys who, when they get to that stage early in their career, they just kind of say, yeah, this is going to happen every year. Did you appreciate the moment?
No, not really. There was some guys, I remember Scott Vegeta came to me. He was like, bro, you're so freaking lucky. You little rookie, like you get to go to the bowl the first year, win 16 games. Like it was, you know, it's unheard of. And, you know, some guys, you know, go a long time without winning, you know, without breaking 500, without going to the playoffs. You know, I remember I had a conversation with Joe Thomas and Joe Thomas and what's the coach? Joe Hayden.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with them after one of the games for Cleveland, and I told both of them, I said, I got so much respect for y'all because y'all come in, y'all perform at a high level every year. And not to say they're not playing for nothing, but that's hard when you're consistently losing. And for 16 weeks, you know, week 12, you pretty much know if you're in the playoffs or not, you know, and you got 4 weeks, a whole month at the end of the season where Eugene know a lot of guys tuck it in.
Man, you're speaking that early Jacksonville language, man. Like,
hey, man,
we had a year where as the season wound down, it looked like we had a shot. And, you know, regardless, you know, the mindset is to, you know, you're playing to win. But, you know, it was very different in Baltimore, you know, knowing that, like, we're really competing, like, for a shot versus, hoping there's, some chance, we need these two guys to lose.
Got to beat this team. Right.
And then, we actually made it, and that was fun, even though I was injured. Just that whole environment, atmosphere, the intensity of that whole week itself just was amplified. So I can't imagine, I've never been to a Super Bowl, but, I imagine each week as you, progress,
bigger,
probably bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And then you get to that game, and then Sean Payton decides to do one of the craziest things ever and call an onside kick in the third quarter, and you're the one that jumps on top of it, the undrafted rookie out of Wisconsin. What was that like on the bottom of that
Making
pile?
plays.
Man, so earlier that game, I got a holding call on kick return. And Sean Payton, he gets after people, big. That's a big-time penalty. You setting Drew Brees back,
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. So he's like, who's it on? Who's it on? And I'm hiding. I'm hiding behind people. They're like, it's 52. He had to think about it first. Like, 52? Who's 52? Oh, Casillas. So I told, the linebackers, I said, man, I'm going to get y'all. I'm going to get it back. I'm going to make a play. I'm going to get it back. And the onside kick, when we said we were going to run it at halftime, I was always backside of the play. And I was supposed to cut off, backside 3 or 4 from the backside. Literally had nothing to do with the play. But if you watch the play, it goes between a whole bunch of people's legs. And as I'm running over there, I basically just throw my body in there, just try to mess some stuff up, And when I did that, I landed on the ball. I had the ball in my hands under the pile. I felt like I was underneath there for at least 5 minutes. I don't really know what was the actual time for, the actual real time. But it felt like 5 minutes. I'm talking about scratching, grabbing, twisting helmets, maybe some spitting going on, a lot of – this is, Eugene, this is when you can pull people out the pile.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch it, there's guys getting their dreads pulled from the pile, getting yanked out from the pile, getting kicked. It was unreal. And I was in the middle of all of that. And the only thing I could do was just cradle in the ball. And I never let the ball go. They were saying white ball. We were the visiting team. They were saying white ball, white ball, white ball. That's what I heard. And then finally I let the ball go when that last blue Colt glove, because there was other hands on the glove. On the ball, excuse me. There were other hands on the glove. Chris Reese, I think his hand was on the ball. And there was a blue Colt glove. I don't know who it was, Hank Basket or somebody. But as soon as that last glove came off, that's when I was like, thank you. And I let go of the ball. Chris Reese got up with it. Didn't really realize the implications of that. Because afterwards, they're like, who recovered it? I'm like, I recovered it. They were like, well, Chris Reese got up with the ball. But at the end of the day, it was a team effort. If it wasn't for Chris Reese, I would have never been able to do it. And if it wasn't for me, the Saints would never be able to, have such a historic play. So I'm very honored and privileged that I was able to be at the right place at the right time,
One thing I think that always gets lost when fans watch games or talk about players is the changing of teams, right? Whether you sign as a free agent or especially if you're traded in the middle of the season. Eugene, when you went from Jacksonville to Baltimore, that was after what, 4 or 5 games before the trade deadline?
Yeah. It was early October. It was week 5, I believe. And we were actually getting ready for the London trip. So, just a very interesting time. It happened in the middle of the week. I remember sitting in my living room. I was watching Dragon Ball with my wife, and my agent.
Hold on, rewind. You were doing what?
My wife and I were just hanging out watching Dragon Ball. We like to watch anime.
Little Goku, little Gohan.
That's our thing. Yeah, So I get a call from my agent, and he's like, hey, man, you're going to Baltimore. He's like, you might want to start getting ready to get out of Jacksonville, get your bag ready. It's going to happen quick. And, I really just didn't believe him. And about the third time I asked him if he was serious, man, I lit up. I was so pumped. I was like, man, I'm getting out of jail right now. I've been down in Jacksonville, and that offseason they drafted Luke Jokel, and although they moved him to right tackle, I knew the writing was on the wall at that point. You don't draft a guy, in the first round to play right tackle. So, I was so excited. It was, a lot of losing time in Jacksonville, and like here was a fresh chance to, go to a team competing for, the championship every year. They're a competitor. Man, it was amazing. And also my wife grew up here in Maryland, Columbia, not too far from where we lived in Owings Mills. So it was an amazing time.
And that getting traded mid-season, this you hear it so often in the NBA, and it's obviously much more rare in the NFL. But your life is completely upended. Were you staying in a long-term hotel? What were you doing for that first season in Baltimore?
So initially I was in a hotel, but not for long. So I got traded. I believe I got that call on a Tuesday night and was in Baltimore sometime Thursday. So I stayed in a hotel, and from that point to the next Monday, my wife had our entire house packed and in storage, and my family drove down, and they all brought all our stuff up to Maryland. And so everything was in storage. We stayed at my wife's parents for a little while because she lived in Columbia, and her parents still are here. And then we rented a townhouse. And so the process for me as a player was to get to Baltimore and, get ingrained immediately. If I wasn't in meetings, I was with the assistant O-line coach, getting installs, learning the playbook. They tried to, jam pack it, in its entirety, really by that Sunday. And so it was just a mass effort to get on board with the rest of the team really fast and acclimate to, the differences, with the culture of the team, which for me was incredible. There was just so much freedom because, not giving your 100% was not even a question, right? Like this, we're here to win the championship, not just to play football, not to hope that by the end of the year, we're waiting on these guys to lose. And that was my experience, each year in Jacksonville. The difference between guys literally, being pissed off that, we didn't make it versus, the culture losing so much that the flights for vacations were booked for a lot of guys, before December. It was just a totally different environment.
Well, in Jacksonville, you didn't have a single winning season. You mentioned that one year you were close. You guys went 8-8. So no winning seasons in Jacksonville. And then you get traded to the defending Super Bowl champions and actually get to make it to the postseason for the first time in your career. And Jonathan, you had to obviously win a Super Bowl in New Orleans. You have a nice stay there, 3-4 years. You go to Tampa, and then the Patriots trade for you, correct?
Yeah.
And that was a similar scenario, right before the trade deadline?
Yeah. So it was similar with you, Jim. Mine was a little later. It was like right on the deadline, like 4 o'clock. I think the Patriots called me at like 3:58. So it was literally no talks of the Patriots. My situation for Tampa was, we were bad. Tampa's never really that great, but it was like Jacksonville and Tampa was like competing who's the worst team in the league back then.
Right.
Every year. So I think we were like 0-7 or something like that. And Baltimore came in and Flacco threw 4 touchdowns in the first quarter against Tampa. And I'm sitting there looking like, because I wasn't even playing. I was supposed to be playing in that game. I had pulled my hamstring, I think 2 weeks before that, and I was down. And I was supposed to come back for that game, but Lovey didn't activate me. So I was like confused. I felt like I didn't feel good about that. And then we getting our butts kicked. I'm not playing that much. I'm sitting on the sideline like, man, I got to get the fuck out of here, man. I can't. I'm not playing for like the sorriest team in the league. So I told my agent, and literally, he was like, all right, we'll play. He's like, are you sure? He's like, I'll reach out to some teams. And literally, like, right before the trade deadline, he's like, something might happen. He named a whole bunch of other teams. And at, 3:50 or whatever time it was, he's like, Bill Belichick wants you to play for the Patriots. And I'm like, man, I know the Patriots. They got Mayo and Hightower. All them dudes like 250, 260. I was contemplating on not going for like 2 seconds. And my agent was like, bro, Bill Belichick wants you in the middle of the season. Are you kidding me? Get your ass up to New England. So I went. conversation went like this with Bill. We got practice tomorrow, Wednesday. I expect you to be there Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning. There's a flight at 8 o'clock tonight, and I expect you to be on that flight, all right? I'm like, Bill, it's 4 o'clock. I have a dog. I have a whole life here. What do you mean be on a flight in 8 hours, 4 hours? Like, but you just got to, basically, when you get traded, you got to drop your life and pick up your life somewhere else, you know? And for me, it was everything changed. Of course, the culture, the temperature, my living situation. I was living and playing in 80 degrees when I got to New England, and I played at Wisconsin, so I was familiar with the code, but I didn't own a coat in Florida. You don't need to own one there. So I went to New England, and it's 32 degrees and snowing when I land. I don't even have a coat. I got to go back to New Jersey, my mom's house, to get my coats. So I'm not even properly equipped. And we're playing Sunday night football, mind you, a whole bunch of meaningless games in Tampa that we're getting our ass kicked. We got Sunday night football against Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, my first game. So talk about the level and literally going from worst to first, you know, like, I mean, I was blessed, you know, like, I mean, who would go through something like from the worst team in the league? Literally, they picked Jameis Winston, #1 overall that year, and we went on to win a Super Bowl. So I went from worst to first, and, you know, I thank God for that. That was a great blessing. But it taught me so much because as a professional, as a man, you know, that tested me, you know, like it tested me as a man, my fortitude. Because you get up to a whole familiar environment, you don't know nobody. There's no training camp. There's no getting to know guys. Like you literally got to pick up a playbook and a team and learn it in a few days and play on the weekend. Very challenging. I look forward to it. New England did not give me a playbook. They gave me 3 pieces of paper to learn the defense, and that's what I went off of. And even in the game, Jamie Collins would call something out, like Baker Wright, and I'm looking at Jamie like,
I had a totally different experience.
They didn't give me the playbook, you know? But that was my deal. Go ahead.
So I got the whole playbook, man. Like, there wasn't a moment if – I had to come early, you know, to get in the playbook with the assistant coach, Andy Moeller, at the time, before meetings. And in between meetings, like, even if it was just 10 minutes, you're like, come on, you have a few minutes, let's go over this. Like, it was non-stop.
Yeah. I did that too, but they just didn't give me a playbook. You know how the New England is, though. They don't want people knowing too much. You know
they weren't sure how long you'd be around, right? They're like, hey, man, we might give this guy too much.
Right. You don't know. So
man,
we got to give him a little bit. Don't give him too much.
I'm always fascinated from a personal standpoint, and I guess I didn't verbalize this earlier in terms of when guys get traded mid-season. Imagine if you're working at AT&T and then all of a sudden you're cleaning out your desk and you're going to work at the Verizon offices the next day. And it's not just about a different company or a different team. It's about different personalities and trying to cultivate friendships while you're playing on the field and trying to be a cohesive unit. That's a challenging aspect. And I think almost as much as the physical, it's the mental, right? Not just the learning, but the social aspect of a different locker room. Eugene, was that a challenge for you?
You know, really, as an offensive lineman, no matter what team you're on, nothing matters but getting your job done. That's it. So, you know, that's everyone in that room's focus. And so, you know, it was really much – it was an easy transition for me. You know, I had a room full of some Super Bowl champions. Everyone, you know, had the same mission in mind as mine. And it was actually fun to be in an environment where everyone was on the same page in that way after leaving Jacksonville, feeling like, you know, the team itself, whether it was the front office or the players involved, you know, everyone, you know, wasn't on the same page in that regard. So yeah, it was definitely interesting, but not too difficult of a transition socially either.
It's two of the best cultures in my mind in the NFL, if not the 2 best cultures, what you have there in Baltimore, and then obviously what you have in New England, but very different feels in, you know, Foxborough and Owings Mills. Foxborough is much more business-like, right, Jonathan? It's just a different feel probably than any other team you were on, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. And people always ask me, how does it feel playing in New England? And the truth of the matter is, if you're a professional, if you handle your stuff like a mature adult, you're at work on time and you're giving it your all, you won't have any problems with New England, because they have specific roles for you, and you can outplay that role and they'll expand you. But like Bill Belichick knew exactly where he wanted me to play. He knew that he wanted me to play on L4 on kickoff, this position on punt. And maybe you play a little defense, but we'll see. We don't know yet. We'll see about that. I ended up working my way in, but you have to be a consummate pro. Like, there's no waking up late. There's no forgetting assignments. Like, that don't happen. Revis, I think, showed up late one day. He sent them home for the whole day. The whole day. Come back at 4:30. What? 4:30? Like, we ought to work at 4:30. Come back at 4:30 because – that's the standard. It's like, bro, we ain't about to, no 2 minutes late, no fine. Because, some guys get paid all that money, $5,000 ain't nothing to them. Like, that's hard to say, Dan, but some guys are like, oh, that's cool, whatever, But, like, he's like, you're going to miss a whole day of work, and it's going to mess you up for this weekend. So he's like, you're not being a professional towards me. You're going to face the consequences. Some people don't care about money. You know what I mean? So it's like, of course, the NFL is a business, but the flagship business, the flagship organization in the NFL, I feel like is the New England Patriots. From number one, how many wins they have, of course, because of Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and Tom Brady, but the culture that they have when they go there. You got to be a consummate pro. And consummate pros, they have success. And statistically, if my numbers are correct, if you play for the Patriots, there's about a 30% chance that you'll win a Super Bowl. That has changed because Tom Brady's gone, right. But numbers don't lie. 6 and 18 years, you know what I'm saying? So The level was different, and I felt that as soon as I walked into the building.
Time for a quick break so we can tell you about our presenting sponsor, makers of some of the finest athletic apparel that you will ever wear. Take my word for it. It is Vuori Clothing. Vuori. You want to check this out. This is the most versatile performance apparel on the market. It's soft, it's comfortable, and it's very useful for anything you want to do. It's great for working out. And by the way, it looks great. I wear it to travel when we are traveling, which I'm hoping will be in the very near future. I wear it for lounging around the house. I wear it to work out, to play yoga, to hoop it up, to go to the beach, all of the above. They have great hoodies. They have tremendous workout shirts. The shorts are phenomenal for the guys. I love the core short because it has a built-in liner, one short every sport. Their new Ponto pants, incredibly comfortable. And of course, they have joggers for both men and women. It is Vuori, Vuori, clothing.com/Helliepod for 20% off your first order. VuoriClothing.com/Helliepod. Try it out right now. You get 20% off your first order. I promise you won't be sorry. Now, let's get back to the pod. So, for both of you guys, before it was all said and done, injuries were obviously an issue in your career. Eugene, you walked away at 29 after, some concussion issues and shoulder surgery. And Jonathan, you walked away. I'm trying to remember the injury you had. I mean, you probably can't even name the number of surgeries/injuries that you had in your playing career, correct?
My injury report is like that thick, bro.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I know that you talked about, being introduced to painkillers when you were a rookie and you were taking Toradol, and you had a well-respected veteran that said, this is kind of the magic potion. And, Eugene, you obviously have dealt with painkillers, and you're part of the NFL's pain management committee now. And I guess my question to you, I know you're both very involved in the cannabis industry now and have been pro-cannabis for dealing with pain management in the NFL. Felt like it's a big help. I'll start with you, Eugene. Are you happy with the new CBA and in terms of the marijuana testing and how it's set up now as opposed to before?
Overall happiness with it, yes, it's major progress. It's a safer environment for the athletes who choose to use cannabis instead of the pharmaceutical drugs they've been prescribed. They're in most of the states where there's an NFL team, there's some form of cannabis available, whether it's through the medical or recreational program that's been legalized there. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that movement. Because we've got too many guys who leave the game, and all of the pain from the injuries they sustain is still there and getting worse as those injuries age along with them. And there's still a need to manage that. There's still a need to obviously continued physical therapy and all the other things that you have to do to manage, traumatic injury. But you also have underlying inflammation that, cannabis can help reduce. And so there's, aside from that, just the other issues that athletes deal with while they're playing. And now, they don't have to take sleep pills. They don't have to, take the same type of, anti-anxiety medicine and those things. So, it really removes or at least, adds a tool in the toolbox for a player to use. They don't have to use it, right? The players don't have to use cannabis, but now they don't have to, tell doc that, they need Vicodin. I need a couple of Vicodins, to get through the practice today, right? You have guys taking that stuff midweek because, the game is that rough. And now there's a healthier alternative. And so, yeah, very happy. It's something that, JC here was a part of fighting for. And while it's not perfect, right, there's no need for the NFL to test, our adult athletes at all for this, but the environment is much better now, much better.
Jonathan, how do you avoid, I guess with players, when I first many years ago would hear about marijuana as pain management, I'm like, probably like a lot of people were out there, I'm like, is it really? And then I moved to California and I see it out here. I see the stores, I see the CBD oils. I have CBD oils. I've used them. You have your own company where you're selling CBD oils. How did that change things for you when you first started using that as a player?
Well, I didn't start really using CBD until my last couple years. I wish I had it earlier in my career. Of course, I participated in cannabis consumption.
As did many.
But this was just more of a recreational thing and more for like peace of mind, almost more than my physical ailments that I've had. And then once I got introduced to CBD, I started really researching the cannabis plant in itself and realized all of the side effects of being a football player, cannabis treats. The stress, the physical pain, the anxiety, all of the stuff that football players go through on a daily basis, not just the physical, the physical demands from the sport, but also the mental demands and the social demands and the emotional demands. It's a lot, we as football players, and my daughter's 8 years old and I've been a father the whole time, but I feel like the last 3 years, I've really been a father the last 3 years after I retired. So with that being said, I was missing out a little bit while I was playing because you're so focused. You're so goal-oriented with football that even my kid, the most important thing in my life. But when you're playing ball, you're so focused on ball that even the most important thing gets pushed to the side because you have to focus and dedicate everything to football. And if you do that with nothing to alleviate the stress, nothing to alleviate the pain, then you literally go crazy. So people find outlets, right? They find the drugs, they find drinking, and I found cannabis before I really knew the medicinal benefits of it. And that helped me get through my career. Now that I know the medicinal benefits, and I could be more particular on why I'm using certain products for, you know, certain ailments that I have, whether that's stress, whether that's I can't sleep this day, whether my knees are hurting or my back is tight, you know, and that cannabis provides so many different avenues without pushing you down that path of addiction, without pushing you down that path of, you know, doing things that you regret. You know, like our worst stories, pretty sure all of us, our worst stories as men have came from drinking, you know, and
Sure.
we promote that. Like we as the NFL, we as Americans, we promote liquor so much on every commercial, and that's killing all of us. You know, and then before this coronavirus, the thing that was killing everybody was the opioids. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have these issues that people like myself and Eugene and Dan, I'm pretty sure you've been involved in that too, where we've used these drugs, alcohol, whatever, and they're killing us. They're literally killing us. And we found something that can not only help us, but that can be profitable if it's done the correct way. You know what I mean? So, you know, I get so emotional about it because, you know, a lot of people have lost their careers and lost their lives because of a little bit of weed. Because of a little bit of weed. You know what I mean? And that's very sad. And I want to do everything I can to help the culture in itself, the NFL culture, the cannabis culture, the NFL and cannabis culture.
Well, I think the other thing when you talk about the culture and the industry, and both of you guys leading voices for, you know, kind of into implementing cannabis use for pain management, but there's also big time business endeavors, and you are both entrepreneurs now who have a financial stake in the cannabis industry. How has that been? And Eugene, I'll start with you on this one, to have something post playing career to be passionate about.
Well, for me, it wasn't just post-playing careers. This really began while I was still playing. You know, as I was researching cannabis as a means for healing from the injuries I had, it was impossible to search. You know, even thinking back to 2013. The business activity was just all over the place. And I got to Maryland, and Maryland was letting out a process to compete for licensing. And so that was my entryway into the cannabis industry. So, you know, making that transition from football to just doing, you know, business was, you know, it was actually an easier transition because now football's dropped off, so I can focus all of that energy into the cannabis business.
Hey, Jonathan, when do you think marijuana is going to be like alcohol? Do you think that'll ever happen? And just in terms of the overall acceptance here in the U.S.?
I think yes, it will become like alcohol, but I don't know how soon that will be, because the big wigs got to get their hands on it. You know what I mean? And that's when it's really going to come widely accepted. Big pharma runs this country, you know. So once they have their stake, you know, and they're able to eat, then they'll let everybody else eat. That's how I feel. Eugene, you know probably a little more about it than I do, but I know Big Pharma runs this shit, you know. So it's really up to when it start getting Big Pharma, those big companies really start getting the patents and stuff like that, where they can research it and they start putting it out mass production, which is going to destroy the actual product, I think, itself. But that's when it's going to be like alcohol eventually. I don't know when that will be, but eventually it will be like that.
Before I let you guys go, and I really appreciate your time from both of you, I know you have a stake in companies. Eugene, is there anything that you want to talk about here, a company that you're involved with, before we wrap things up?
You know, not really. You know, the fact that I'm associated in the cannabis industry is awesome, but really just like the issue I highlighted about social justice is most important to me. You know, there's just far too many people being left behind. And, you know, I can only imagine sitting in jail for, you know, having an ounce of marijuana, you know, and, you know, reading, you know, somehow that, you know, 3 months ago it was legalized, and, you know, people are growing, you know, thousands of pounds of it all over, but I got arrested and I'm sitting behind bars because of an ounce. It's a huge problem.
Jonathan?
Well, just what Eugene said, like my company, Jags Garden, I haven't really took off yet. Being in football for so long, you know, my business acumen is not that great. So I try to, you know, rely on relationships, you know, and one thing I realized in business, stepping away from football, not even just business, it's just stepping away from football, you know. Eugene, I went against this dude in a scrimmage in high school. He was a beast. He was bigger than everybody. I've never seen nobody big in my life. With that being said, Eugene went to Virginia. You know, he was tested and proved himself over and over and over and over again until he got drafted, and he's a professional, and he's on the highest level you can be, right? The professional level. Everyone in the NFL can play in the NFL, meaning they've been tested, they've been prodded, they've been, you know, picked apart, torn apart. Now they're at this level. We're all professionals. You pay for us to see us play, right? Now I'm stepping into business, thinking I'm talking to other professionals like myself. Like, I'm a professional football player. So I'm talking to, you know, somebody in this industry that's a professional. So I think that they're going to be or do as much due diligence as I did preparing for my job. You know, but that's not the case. You know, so as I'm stepping away from ball, this has cannabis, but it's more about just the world in general. I realize there are so many people, there's so many bullshitters, there's so many, I call them diaper people, Eugene. So many shitty people, bullshitters, people that ain't shit, assholes. Like, those are my diaper people. I put them on all in that. And in football, you get some assholes, but most people can do their job, you know, very, very well. You know, and as I'm stepping out of the league and, you know, getting into business and meeting people from different industries, cannabis and fitness and a whole bunch of other things, I'm realizing not everybody is who they say they are. You know, a lot of people are, you know, putting a good Instagram page together or a good bio together to make themselves look good or to make themselves seem like somebody they're not. And now, me learning that, you know, at 32 years old, it's like, all right, slow down what you were doing. And what Eugene said, one thing I learned about Eugene, he's a smart dude, and he does his due diligence. He does. From what I've heard from him and what I've read about him, he does. And that's what I've been learning, stepping away from ball and getting into business, you know?
You know what I found? There's so many things that you learn as an athlete in the sport that apply 100% to really any business endeavor that you might be involved in. You just have to understand, you know, how to apply those things to that particular business. So, you know, the things you're talking about with, you know, people and the things that they're not, right? Like, you know, my advice would be, you know, there's even no need to have a list of diaper people. Just, you know, deal with good people, and if they're not good people, move on. You know, I don't do business with anyone that I really, you know, can't sit down and have a meal with and enjoy. Like, you know, you really don't win that way. And in terms of the people you work with directly, you know, everyone has to be aligned. Everyone has to be, you know, responsible. And if you're not, I mean, it's like the Patriots. Like, you can't be a part of this team, period. Yeah, that's really how I move. That same environment that you talked about being set in New England. I mean, you know, you hear business people all the time, you know, wanting to just understand how Bill Belichick, you know, runs his business as a coach. So, you know, just remembering those things and applying it to what you're doing now with your business, you know, I think you'd see, you know, yourself start to take off like you don't think you are just quite yet.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time. And I learned something this podcast, which I can't say that I do every time I talk to guys. So that was educational, and best of luck to you in the business endeavors. And Eugene, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, and how many others do, the social justice stance that you're taking as well. I hope you're surviving the quarantine. Things are starting to open up slowly but surely and getting a little bit back to normal. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having me, man.
I had fun. I'll come on anytime.